Okay, last time what we were talking about is really how animals kind of deal with nitrogen metabolism, protein metabolism, and the production of the breakdown products or the waste products as a result of metabolizing the protein. So as far as waste elimination goes, it's really dependent on evolutionary lineage and the habitat that these organisms reside in. So if animals live in a really dry habitat, then obviously water is at a premium, and they're going to want to conserve as much water as possible, and they're going to make really the most concentrated type of nitrogen containing waste product possible, and that would be uric acid. So that's like the paste in birds, reptiles, certain organisms that live in really dry, hot, arid environments. They're going to make this uric acid type of a paste. And other types of animals that live in a really moist environment or have ample access to water are going to secrete their waste product in the form of urea, and then aquatic types of organisms that live in water are going to get rid of it in ammonia. Okay, in terms of ammonia. So there's a variety of excretory systems that really all involve the same types of steps. And what that is they're going to collect the body fluids. They're going to filter this fluid that's being collected through a semi-permeable type of a membrane, forming the filtrate. And then that filtrate is going to really have the good stuff pulled out and the bad stuff you're going to get rid of. And then any non-essential or excess type of nutrients that you've taken in, as well as the bad stuff, that's going to be left in the fluid and really excreted from the body. So your excretory systems are really built on the same basic function. Okay, you've got some sort of a capillary blood system, kind of bringing the blood in to be filtered. You're going to form this filtrate in some sort of a particular portion of this organ, and now this filtrate here is going to move down one of the tubes. You're going to selectively reabsorb some of the good stuff along the way. As much as possible. You're going to secrete out some of the bad stuff, and then you're going to excrete the urine that's being produced after having all of really the good stuff taken out. Okay, and the good stuff a lot of times obviously is water. We have solutes, nutrients, amino acids, a lot of the types of things that we were discussing earlier. Okay, so if we look at insects now, insects have these structures called Malpighian tubules, and other types of arthropods have them as well. And what these basically are is they're organs that are going to remove the nitrogenous waste products, regulate the osmolarity of the insect or the organism that has them. And what they basically do is they open up into the hemolymph. That's kind of the fluid in the organism, and then they're going to kind of dump the contents really into the intestine or the digestive tract of this particular organism. Okay, and you've got various types of transport epithelial tissue or cells that are going to line these Malpighian tubules right here, and this is where the salt, water, nitrogenous waste, those types of things are kind of put into or filtering into these Malpighian tubules, and then you're going to dump all of the waste and such into the digestive tract. It's going to move down towards the end of the digestive tract into the rectum, and then this is the spot where you've got these transport types of epithelial tissue here as well. You can see kind of lining that, and that's where you're going to reabsorb the water, the ions, and other types of nutrients that are valuable to it. And by taking out the water and all of the good stuff, you're going to be left with that uric acid paste that's going to be excreted from the body of the organism. Okay, so these are functioning in the same way really as a kidney, in that they're going to filter out all of the stuff, selectively reabsorb the good stuff, conserve the water, and get rid of the wastes. Now with the kidneys, as far as the kidneys are concerned, these are going to function obviously in regulating the amount of water balance in the body as well as excreting the waste products. And there's numerous types of tubules that are going to be arranged in a very organized manner throughout the kidney. And these structures, these nephrons, are going to be kind of surrounded by a dense network of capillaries that are also going to be associated with helping reabsorb the good stuff into the bloodstream, the water, that type of a thing, while getting rid of the urine, urea, and the other nitrogenous waste products. So what you have here is you've got a renal artery that would be, get my pen here, kind of supplying the kidney in this direction, and then you've got the renal vein that's going to enter back into the venous blood flow. And basically the composition of what's going in is different than the composition of what's going out if we consider what the job of the kidney is, and that's to filter out the blood. And then during the process of filtration here, you've got the good stuff being selectively reabsorbed, and then the urine that's being formed is going to travel down the ureter to the urinary bladder, and then it's going to be gotten rid of, excreted throughout the body through the urethra. That would be the opening in the reproductive system, as well as the urinary system. Okay, so here's what we're kind of looking at. Just we'll come back to this periodically, but you can see here's your kidney, and with this kidney you're going to have kind of the outer cortex, and you're going to have the inner medulla, okay, right in through here, and then all of these things are going to drain into this ureter and down into the urinary bladder. And now this kidney up here, if we blow this up, it's going to be kind of organized into about 1 million of these nephrons. Okay, so you have a nephron, Nephron, you've got your nephron. That's the functional unit of the kidney, and that's what's going to help form the urine. And you can see that it's associated, this yellow kind of portion of the tube here is kind of all wrapped around. You've got this long, dense tube and loop in some cases, and then it kind of connects back here to Bowman's capsule. And then you can see all of the arteries and veins that are kind of surrounding it, kind of assisting with the uptake. So if you kind of zoom out a little bit from the nephron, you can see it's kind of organized into this type of a structure, which is the nephron, but this is kind of, zoom out even further and you can see it's in there. And we're only showing one here, and just kind of keep in mind that each kidney has on average about 1 million nephrons or functional units there to filter out the blood. Okay, so the mammalian kidney, as I said, you can break it up into the inner medulla and the outer cortex. So that cortex is, out here. The medulla is going to be on the inside. And these tubes, these structures are packed with excretory types of tubules, blood vessels, that sort of a thing. Okay. Now, as I said a few minutes ago here, the nephron is the functional unit of the kidney. So this entire thing right here would be referred to as a nephron. And you've got this ball of capillaries here at the end, and that's going to be the glomerulus. You've got Bowman's capsule right here that's going to kind of capture that filtrate. And then you've got a variety of other tubules that are kind of associated with this. And you can see we're going to be looking at this type of a diagram here to show really what's going on in terms of, we've got the proximal tubule or the proximal convoluted tubule. It's all kind of convoluted or wound up. You're going to be reabsorbing some nutrients there. You've got what's referred to as an intermediate tubule, which is also called the loop of Henle. And then you've got a distal tubule or a distal convoluted tubule. It's all kind of convoluted there where you're going to reabsorb other things. And what's not shown here are a bunch of capillaries that you saw in the last picture. And then that's basically going to empty into this collecting duct, which is where really you're going to be forming the actual excretory product, the urine, that's either going to be very concentrated, very yellow, or it's going to be very dilute and very clear. Okay, and we'll talk more about that really as we kind of go through this. So if we're looking here, we're going to kind of keep this idea in mind, and we're missing again the capillaries here. But you can see here is Bowman's capsule. Okay, and you can also see that the blue part really right here is the capsule. And then the red part, this is the glomerulus. Okay, so that dense kind of network of blood vessels that's in there that's going to really filter out the blood, that's the glomerulus right there. Okay, and then what happens is you've got this proximal tubule, proximal convoluted tubule. This is where you're going to actively, with the red arrows here, you're going to actively reabsorb sodium, some various nutrients. You're going to actively pump in some of the hydrogen ions. So this is where the body's, one of the ways in which the body's pH can be regulated. You've got some bicarbonate that's active or passively, getting out, water that's passive, potassium's passive, and then you're going to some of this nitrogen, ammonia. Okay, waste products, things like that are going to get into the filtrate. So the proximal tubule is really involved in exchange of a lot of these nutrients, regulating the pH, just those types of things, as is the distal tubule. Okay, but what you basically have then is now a filtrate with some of the good stuff taken out. It's going to move down here the loop of Henle, and then it's going to move back up. And on the way down, you're going to passively get rid of some water. And then on the way back up, you're going to passively get rid of some sodium chloride. And then eventually in the thick portion, you're going to actively get rid of some sodium chloride. And then when you get to this distal tubule, you're going to be actively pumping salt out, potassium and hydrogen ions in, water out passively, and then actively the bicarbonate out. So again, you can see the bicarbonate and the hydrogen ions and so forth. You can see that the kidneys are just like the lungs, involved in regulating the pH of the blood system. Okay, and then when you get to this collecting duct and we start moving down, sodium chloride is going to be actively pumped out, and then urea and water are going to be passively pumped out. The amount of water that you actually get rid of is going to be largely determined by how thirsty you are, how much water you have in your system, and it's under some hormonal control. So that's really the general idea of what's going on here. Okay, and then in the glomerulus now, this portion really right here, the red thing, in the glomerulus, if we were to look at it with an electron micrograph, kind of looks like this bottom figure right here. Okay, and you can see if we blow up a little bit more that bottom figure, what you basically have are those capillaries, and then you've got these things called podocytes. They've got these little kind of extensions on them that almost look like your fingers that are put together, and that's really going to form those filtration slits that's going to allow the really small molecules out, but you can see how small these structures actually are. No protein really should be getting out of these things. Maybe some amino acids, some sugars, some ions, things like that, but certainly no proteins and no larger macromolecules are going to be getting out of there. So really the small things get out into the what's called the filtrate, and that would be in Bowman's capsule. Okay, so in the next section we're going to kind of talk about the actual structure of the nephron, the kidney, and how it's involved in really forming the urine. Okay, so if you have any questions, write them down, and if not, we'll talk to you soon.